I got a fun little intro too that I'm gonna surprise you with. Okay. All right. We are live. What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Uprise MMA, joined by, me, of course, superfan Huzaifa, and my coach and mentor, Pete Panos, the owner and founder of Uprise MMA in Los Angeles, who is, of course, the expert, and I'm just a fan. And we are here to do the show and talk some MMA, some mixed martial arts, and I've been looking forward to this all week, even longer. Now, the first thing I want to talk about, which is a little bit unrelated to the UFC, but I have to touch base on it, is I binge watched this last week, Cobra Kai, which has been amazing because I love the Karate Kid, and I think anybody who's into martial arts loves that movie. And the one thing that I kept thinking about, though, when I was watching it and as I've been training specifically Muay Thai in the last year, is I just kept thinking, man, I kind of just wish they were actually an MMA gym or a Muay Thai gym, because that feels more relevant and more real to me. But just out of curiosity, do you by chance know, by the way, how many big champion fighters actually have a background in karate training, Pete?
I don't. I know that Lyoto Machida had a karate background.
Yep.
I also know that slipping my head right now. The what's his name? The mustache here, the old back in the day guy, Chuck Liddell.
Chuck Liddell, that's right.
Had a karate background. But yeah, I haven't seen the show. I had a bunch of students tell me, "Hey, coach, you got to watch the show," because I also grew up with Karate Kid, loved Karate Kid. I just haven't seen the new Netflix version yet, but I'm definitely going to catch up on it. I heard it's really good.
Unbelievable. And I mean, the star of the whole show is Johnny, who starts Cobra Kai, and he's sort of that bad Santa character. Amazing.
Yeah.
And there's also, by the way, Robert Whitaker has karate background, and
I didn't know
Bass
that.
Rutten. So it's pretty. So it actually made me feel a lot better about the show and about everything, because I'm like, okay, well, there are some amazing fighters with. And Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. So can't forget him. Okay, so today we got two topics that are really big in the MMA world, the UFC world right now, and that is first and foremost this massive fight coming up on September 26th with the champion Israel Adesanya versus Paul Costa, and we are going to talk about this and chop it up for the next 5 minutes. So we're going to start the timer. And Pete, let's start with you. So this is an incredible fight, and people are saying it's going to be one of the greatest fights probably of all time because of the style matchups, and that is your expertise. So tell us, what are your thoughts on the style matchups?
Yeah, I'm super excited about this fight as well. I think stylistically it's super interesting because you have Izzy, who style bender, who is a very precision type fighter, and then you got Costa, who's power fighter, right? Comes forward. So they got precision versus power, and two guys that don't really like each other. So it's super exciting. I think it's going to come down to, can Izzy pick apart Paulo as he's coming forward, or is he going to be able to smother, smash, and do his thing? And that's where I think is super interesting to me. And not to mention, we got a 19-0 with Israel and 13-0 and Costa. So it's a lot on the line.
I believe, if I'm quoting Ariel Helwani correctly, I think this might be the second time in the history of the UFC where we have officially two undefeated fighters. I may be wrong about that, but it's a very, very rare occurrence. So that also does make it exciting. Now, when we talk about the matchups and Adesanya being a more precision striker and Costa kind of coming forward, Adesanya has mentioned in interviews that, and of course, it's probably not 100% true because he's got to hold some things close to the chest. But he exactly said that. He's counting on Costa doing what he normally does and catching him as a result. What do you think about that? Do you think it's going to play out like that? Do you think Costa's going to mix it up and change his style? What do you see?
I mean, it's hard to say, but I would think he would mix it up and change his style. I think he's going to have moments when he is going to do what he does, which is push the pace and come forward. But I also think he might get a little bit of feel out to see. I don't think it's going to be like Romero. I don't think he's going to sit there and not push the pace. I think it's going to be the opposite of that. But I do think he's going to have to, make some adjustments and possibly start that way and then see if he's having success, continue on that path. If not having success, he may have to make some adjustments. What those adjustments will be, that's going to be the entertaining part. Let's see what will he try to do, and how well will Israel be able to counter that type of pressure.
Speaking of the Romero fight, that was a really interesting one where it was
Yeah.
almost a stalemate of sorts. Any chance you see anything like that happening where
God,
Costa?
I hope not.
Okay.
God, I hope not. That was very frustrating. We watched that fight at my gym, actually. I had a bunch of people here, and everybody was super excited. And after each round, the enthusiasm just kept dropping and dropping. And I really thought Romero was just playing it smart. Like he was going to try to save his energy the first round or two, and then push the pace in the third round, push the pace in the fourth round, and empty the tank in the fifth round. It just never happened. And I really don't think that's going to happen with Wallow. I don't think he's going to take that same approach. That's just not his nature. I'd be super shocked if he did.
So one of these videos that I recently watched went through a bunch of MMA fighters and their picks for the fight. And this was one of those rare occasions where it was, I wouldn't say exactly 50-50, but it was pretty close to 50-50. Probably fighters, I feel like, giving a slight edge to Adesanya. Where do you fall in this? I know you're not crazy about making predictions,
Yeah,
per se,
yeah.
but where do you fall?
Well, I mean, if I was gonna make a choice, I go with Izzy. And I just think precision can beat power more times than not. Um, so yeah, that would what I base it on. I think it's not about power. It is about target. And if you can hit the target, you don't need a lot of power. And I do think Izzy's like next level when it comes to hitting the target and finding his points of precision. So yeah, if I'm gonna be pressed to make a decision, I'm gonna go with the style bender. Not to
And
mention my son's a big anime fan, and he's bugging me crazy about how much he loves Izzy now.
yeah, that's so cool. And I think I know what you're going to say on this front. A lot of people do, but in the case that they are in a smaller cage, who does that
Yeah,
favor and why?
I think it favors Costa, honestly, because I do think the pressure doesn't have as much room to circle before you know what you hit the wall. But I mean, Izzy's a skilled fighter. I think he'll make the adjustments he needs to for a fight in a smaller cage. But if you ask me straight up what I think the smaller cage favors Costa.
Yeah, and actually, there was recently a interview of Izzy's coach, and I believe he kind of opened up and talked about that. But he did say, "Hey, we're making adjustments in training as a result." And
Yeah,
real
yeah. I
quick,
mean, he has to.
what I do want to finish up with is something that Izzy did say when he referenced this fight versus Costa. He said, and speaking of Cobra Kai, he said this is going to be like the real life Karate Kid, the skinny guy coming up against the muscle bound dude, who looks like he's way more intimidating, way bigger. So I can't
Yeah,
wait to see it, and I would have to say I'm
I'm
a
super excited.
huge fan of Izzy, but also, yeah,
Me
hey,
too.
may the best man win. All right,
Yeah,
that
yeah,
ends it on 5. Now we're jumping into the final topic for today, which is John Jones at
yeah,
heavyweight. What do you think? I mean, I just kind of want to talk about this because I think it's so interesting. He had a really fascinating last fight against Dominic Reyes, and now he's
yeah.
moving up to heavyweight, vacate the title. How do you think he fares in this new weight class?
I think he'll do fine. I think with his skill level, and he's a big guy anyway. He's not going to be as big as some of the super heavyweights you got in the division. But I mean, watch that Dominic Reyes fight. I thought it was closer, and then when I watched it again, I realized Jones pretty much won more than I thought he won, rounds more than I thought he won. And it just is a testament to his ability to adjust. And I don't think I honestly think he's going to be fine in this weight division. I think he's more athletic. I think he's more skilled than most of the big guys, and I think he'll have cardio better than most of the big guys. So I think he's going to be fine in his weight division. People are, oh, he's going to run into Nagano. He's going to run into Nagano. He's going to run these big power hitters. Look, Nagano will knock out anybody if he lands his hand on somebody's chin. It doesn't matter if they were a lightweight moving up to heavyweight or if they were always been a heavyweight. It's just that's anybody. But I think Jones is smart enough to know how to fight at any weight class, whether he went up or down.
Now, let's talk about some of these matches. So first you mentioned Ngannou. I want to come back to him. Let's talk about Stipe. Stipe versus Jones, that's probably a fight that we will end up seeing this year and next. What are your thoughts?
Again, I like to make predictions, but I think Jones wins that fight. If I'm going to come right out and make a prediction, I say Jones striking's better. His creativeness is better. The way he comes with elbows and knees, his ringmanship is better. Again, every time I say somebody can win a fight, it could be a coin flip. With Stipe is obviously a high level fucking world champ, so I'm not taking anything away from him. But on paper, I think Jones just possesses too many skills.
And in terms of the change in weight, I mean, I guess we'll have to see what he ends up doing. Is he going to
Yeah.
pack on muscle? Is he just going to go in at his walk around weight? What do you see him doing? What do you think in terms of strategy there?
I mean, I think obviously he's going to have his walk around weight, but he's going to condition himself to be in good shape at his walk around weight, right? If he's not used to fighting at that weight, then he's, it would make sense for him to do the conditioning drills and the muscle building drills to fight at that weight with the same type of cardio and strength and power, precision that he has when he's fighting at the lower weight.
Now, again, just in terms of style matchups, for whatever reason, it seems as though there's more buzz or more people seem to be excited to see him fight Ngannou.
Yeah.
But in terms of the style matchups, versus Stipe versus him versus Ngannou, in which style matchups do you think favors Jones more heavily?
I think Jones is favored style-wise in either of those fights, but I think people want to see Jones Ngannou because it's the obvious reason. Ngannou is like freaking Godzilla, right? He's just super powerful. If he gets his paws on you, he's going to knock you out. He's going to take your head off. And that's what people want to see. Can Jones, it's kind of a little bit like Izzy and Costa, right? I mean, you got power against precision. And it's not that Jones doesn't have power, but Jones is a lot like Izzy in that way where he's going to pick you apart. He's going to get you with spinning elbows, knees, clinch. He can beat you in many ways: wrestling, grappling, chokes. A lot of people, I got a lot of students are big fans of Jones, and they're worried about him fighting again. Oh, I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it. I want to see it not only because I think it's an interesting fight, but I think Jones is going to be fine in that fight. I really do.
I think it's a fascinating fight too. I'm a huge fan of John Jones. He was one of the earlier guys that I started following, so I can't wait.
As a fan, would you be worried about him fighting Ngannou?
He seems to me, he seems so skilled and so unstoppable. I mean, it's definitely a scary fight in general. I don't look at it per se that way. I just think it'd be a phenomenal fight, and I'm excited. And the cards fall where they fall. And the other thing too is I am not so much of a fan that freaks out when my favorite fighter loses, because I just think losing is part of the game. And I think these, these undefeated records. I mean, look, of course, I love Khabib, I love Izzy, I love all these guys that have, and I think the undefeated record's amazing. But I think a loss is not that big of a deal, and you bounce back from it a lot of times stronger.
Yeah.
So if it happens, it happens. And then last final thoughts. If he does come in and if he does claim a championship, let's say he even defends it once or twice or three times. Is it no question at that point who is the greatest of all
GOAT?
time? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can make that case. I mean, it's hard. People want to make, references to other eras. They may say Anderson Silva, they may say George St. Pierre, right? It's hard to say because someone can make the case, or they fought different guys, different tougher guys. I think Jones would make a pretty strong case, though, if he won it and then defended it. That'd be pretty impressive.
All right, we are at the end of our time for the second show, the second installment, and this has been so much fun. We both get to talk about what we love, and of course, you guys get to hear Pete's perspective and many years in the game and in the business. So thank you guys so much for joining. We're going to be coming out with a lot more episodes on the regular every week, and some incredible things that are up on the forefront that we're going to discuss and research later. One of those being this amazing fighter, Khamzat Chimaev, who now has 2 fights that are already scheduled, which is a bit strange, but pretty sweet nonetheless. And I heard an amazing interview of his next opponent was talking a little smack and saying what he's going to do. So it seems to be a pretty sick next couple months in the UFC. So that is it for today. Thank you guys so much for joining, and we will see you guys next time. Take it easy.
Yes.